just talking about that fight for life, that desire that no, this is not how I'm going out kind of
Yeah.
idea. And I'd love for you to just give us some perspective of when you've hit these challenges per se, or obstacles or detours. How do you support yourself in looking at it as, okay, it's here. How do I deal with this? Because I know everyone is dealing with something at some point in time. They're either
All
going
of us.
into a challenge, coming through a challenge, or they just been in one.
Yeah.
And what are some of the strategies that you have used when you recognize this challenges that have come big and small in front of you? Because you've obviously have developed a little bit of a pathway to help you navigate that.
So I'm going to give you a real life example of this because I do think this is something that people need a strategy on how they're going to deal with hard things. Like everyone needs a strategy and tools to be like,
Yeah.
all right, here's the key points that I need to make. Um, I had a dream that by the time I was 50, I was going to open a trauma healing center. So think of it as like rehab for your mental health.
Yeah.
People could fly to me, they could stay in this beautiful suite on this beautiful property, and we were going to do intense healing work. And I had been doing it for years with people just staying at hotels, and I was so excited about it. And September of 2020, that beautiful year of COVID, first year, I
Mhm.
got the opportunity to open that healing center. And from somebody coming out of the blue and offering to fund it and be the bank, to finding the dream property that was unheard of, to getting it below asking on Vancouver like, everything about it was insane, and if you wanna know more of the story, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
I will tell you. But I opened this trauma healing center. We sunk our hearts, our souls, our bodies, our like, our money, like, everything into it,
Yeah.
and 1 year in almost to the day we closed it. And
Mm.
it's not because it wasn't successful. I had a 1-year waiting list. It's not because people weren't getting results. I had medical doctors sending people to me.
Mhm.
It's because I have a weak immune system from having a brain aneurysm when I was 17, and I got severe mold poisoning on the island, Vancouver Island, for anyone out of who's listening. I got severe mold poisoning, and it triggered a really, really rare thyroid disease where I have hyper and hypothyroidism at the same time.
Mhm.
And I was sick. I was really frickin' sick. And I couldn't get into a doctor. I couldn't get in for testing. I finally managed to get blood work, and then I got blood work again a month later, and it showed my numbers were just like out of control and things were bad. Called my family doctor back in Edmonton from prior to moving, and he's like, "You need to get here now. Something is going on in your body and it's not good." So here's one of my first strategies: move quick.
Mhm.
I don't I so people have described me as I don't collect dust. Like I just move at a quick pace in everything I do in my life,
Yeah.
but I do in trouble as well. And so in that moment, I sat down and was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna just pretend my body's fine. No, I'm not gonna pretend these test results are gonna magically get better. No." But my husband has this saying, "Follow it through to its natural conclusion." And what that
Mm.
means is if you're continually going down the same path, doing the same thing, where is this gonna end up if you follow this down like another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 months, years, whatever?
Yeah.
And so we've adopted that in our marriage. But with that, I was like, okay, what's working, what's not working, and how do I fix it? Well, one of the things that was working is I'm good at making decisions. One of the things that was working is that my husband still had a job. Like there's this list of things that were working, but what wasn't working? I could hardly work.
Mm.
And so this entire thing is funded by me being able to work full time. And I didn't know how to get the help that I needed medically. I knew I had to come back to Alberta to figure that out, even just for an appointment.
Mhm.
So this was a Friday. I hopped in my car after I dropped my last client off at the airport, and I had already pre-booked a month off, just knowing I needed to figure out my health. And I got in my car and I packed a bag and I drove all the way back to Alberta and was at my doctor's office on Monday morning. I couldn't fly at that point because of my health. I couldn't stay awake for more than 1 to 2 hours, so I would drive 2 hours and sleep. I would drive 2 hours and sleep. It was I literally drove that entire time to do
Wow.
that 21-hour road trip.
Yeah.
It took me that long, and went to the doctor Monday, was in for testing on the Tuesday. And that, by the way, stubborn resilience, I phoned and booked a fake ultrasound on my thyroid, guessing that's what it was, and lied to them saying I had a requisition the week before, and then hoped my doctor would give me the requisition on the Monday for the appointment so that I could get it done. But
Right.
also because I'm really resilient and I'm scrappy, I asked how soon I could get it if I just paid cash. And they
Mm.
magically could get me in instead of 6 months, they could get me in 5 days or 7 days or whatever it was. And Tuesday, I got the diagnosis, and by Tuesday noon, I had already talked to the person who had purchased it for us. We went out for lunch. I told him what was going on, and Wednesday it went up for we hired a realtor, and by Friday it was up for sale.
Wow.
And so when people were like, "What are you doing? You have no idea how this is going to go down."
Yeah.
I am a big believer that one of the reasons why we struggle so hard is because we refuse to acknowledge where we're actually really at. So instead of being honest with ourselves and going, no, we can't afford this, we can't maintain this, we can't hold off and hope this somehow works. We can't somehow hope or pull all of our savings or drain all of our retirement to somehow make this a thing. We made the decision, it was done.
Mm.
And so quick decisions. That's one of my strategies is like sit down, be brutally honest with myself, rip off the
Yeah.
band-aid and go, what do we have to change now in
Yeah.
order to protect ourselves? Because us holding on to this is what is the old saying? It's just like beating a dead horse, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
going to benefit anybody. So in that, sitting down and going, okay, I can trust doctors, naturopaths, whoever to figure out how to heal this. But I also have this magical ability to Google like nobody's business, right? And I think that that's a skill set of mine is I don't actually believe that it's anybody else's job but mine to figure it out.
Mm.
And so that was very developed from my birth, from my childhood of not feeling like I could count on anyone around me, that I'm really good at figuring things out. Like, I'm really good at it. Like, I
Yeah.
have friends
Yeah.
that call me if they need something figured out, and they're like, "Dawn, how do I get this test faster? How do I solve this problem?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got you, girl. I will figure this out. Like, I will Google this for you and make the phone calls." And that's another one is like, I have a core belief that everything can be figured out if you're resilient enough,
Mm.
right?
That's
And
very powerful.
part of that is a strategy even on 3 steps to getting anything you want, which is if you have one tiny piece of determination, no shame, and one tiny action, and rinse and repeat over and over and over and over and over, you can actually figure anything out. You just have to be willing to put yourselves in an uncomfortable position to look like an idiot sometimes, to ask the questions, to wait on hold, to get mad, to make 400 phone calls, and just do it. Just do it and not care if you look dumb, not care if someone's judging you, not care if any of that's going on. Just fight. And that is a gift out of that childhood,
Yeah.
right? And so that was a big piece of that was even in making all of those decisions, I remember a friend was like, she's like, "Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine what people are gonna think." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Everyone's gonna think that you failed because, like, we all just said goodbye to you a year ago to go and do this, and now you're coming back. They're gonna think that you failed." And I was like, "And? Who cares? Who actually cares
Mm.
if I did?" Right? Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew the financials. Nobody knew what was actually happening. I could totally fake it. I wasn't, but do you know what I mean? We're so
Yeah.
caught up in what someone else is gonna think that we don't make the change, we don't make the phone call, we don't
Mm.
admit something about our health, we don't
face
Yeah.
any of these things because 'cause we're so scared. And I think that when you are when you're so stubborn and you're so scrappy, but you also have no shame, it's a really interesting combo to getting results. And so, yeah, those are some of the strategies that I use for it. And really the what's working, what's not working, and how can I fix it? It gives you a very tangible list of like, it doesn't matter who's at fault. It doesn't matter who's to blame. It doesn't matter why or when or no, what's broken? What do I need to do about it? Like, how am I going to fix that? It allows me to come out of a victim mentality, come out of a, oh, woe is me. Why did this happen to me? You know what? Who knows? And maybe there's never a good reason or a good answer, and life just happened because that's what life does,
Yeah.
right? But it allows me to be in control of it instead of allowing it to be in control of me.
So when I hear you, I just want to take a step back for a moment
Mhm.
of about the quick decision making, because sometimes I think people get caught up in the decision making
All the time.
and get stuck in that pro and con lists, weighing out things. But I think what stands out for me, it's your health, right? Without it, you're not going to make any wealth.
Nothing.
And you could push through for another month and say, oh no, I'll be fine for another week. But I think you intuitively know from your own experiences that if something has to be health wise, it's put first.
Totally. Well, and it's some of your priorities, right? Like I often say behind decisions, it's so much about what our intention is behind the action. And I often look at like, is this going to mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, relationally, or financially harm me or anybody else? And in that decision, all of a sudden, no, notice that nobody else's opinions is on that list, right? So when I looked at it, it was like, no, 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 this is my health.
Hmm.
If we don't have our health, we're dead. Yay. Right? So like health
Yeah,
needs to come first.
yeah,
Is this going to financially destroy me to do this? Yeah. It would have. So what the heck? Stop. Let it go, right?
yeah.
Just let it go. You can buy another house. There's, relationships. It was like my marriage, all these things where I was like, can I choose to keep this? Can I choose to hold this? Yes. But what damage is that going to cause me if I follow this through to its natural conclusion?
Mm.
What damage is that going to cause? Not what struggles am I gonna bring onto myself, but, like, what is the damage, and can I recover from that?